Prabhupada. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. We're continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9. We're on text 24. 7.9.24. Tismara mustanu pratam aham ashashoknya ayushriyam vipavam aindriyam avirinchyat nechamite velulitan uruvikramena kalat manopanayamang nijapritya parshvam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear Lord, now I have complete experience concerning the worldly opulence, mystic power, longevity, and other material pleasures enjoyed by all living entities, from Lord Brahma down to the ant. As powerful time, you destroy them all. Therefore, because of my experience, I do not wish to possess them. My dear Lord, I request you to place me in touch with your pure devotee, and let me serve him as a sincere servant. Purport. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam, every intelligent person can get experience like that of Prahlad Maharaj through the historical incidents mentioned in this great literature of spiritual knowledge. By following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, one should gain thorough experience that all material opulence is perishable at every moment. Even this body for which we try to acquire so many sensual pleasures may perish at any time. The soul, however, is eternal. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul is never vanquished, even when the body is destroyed. An intelligent person, therefore, should care for the happiness of the spirit soul, not of the body. Even if one receives a body with a long duration of life, like those of Lord Brahma and the other great demigods, it will also be destroyed. And therefore, an intelligent person should be concerned with the imperishable spirit soul. To save oneself, one must take shelter of a pure devotee. Narottama Das Thakur therefore says, Chadiya Vaishnava Sheva Nishtada Paye Chekeva. If one wants to save himself from material nature's onslaughts, which arise because of the material body, one must become Krishna conscious and try to fully understand Krishna. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. One should understand Krishna in truth, and this one can do only by serving a pure devotee. Thus Prahlad Maharaj prays that Lord Nrsimhadeva place him in touch with a pure devotee and servant instead of rewarding him material opulence. Every intelligent person within this material world must follow Prahlad Maharaj. Mahajano yenikatas sapanta. Prahlad Maharaj did not want to enjoy the estate left by his father, rather he wanted to become a servant of the Lord. The illusory human civilization that perpetually endeavors for happiness through material advancement is rejected by Prahlad Maharaj and those who strictly follow in his footsteps. There are different types of material opulence, known technically as bhukti, mukti, and siddhi. Bhukti refers to being situated in a very good position, like a position with the demigods in the higher planetary systems, where one can enjoy material sense gratification to the greatest extent. Mukti refers to being disgusted with material advancement, and thus desiring to become one with the Supreme. Siddhi refers to executing a severe type of meditation like that of the yogis to attain 8 kinds of perfection, Anima, Lakima, Mahima, etc. All those who desire some material advancement through bhakti, mukti, or siddhi are punishable in due course of time, and they return to material activities. Prahlad Maharaj rejected them all. He simply wanted to engage as an apprentice under the guidance of a pure devotee. Jai. Om Jnanatismirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Putre Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatile Shatarane Vanchakalpatarupshascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So in last week's verse, Sri Prahlad was speaking about the wisdom he attained from observing his father, who tried so hard to have all the benefits of material advancement and had them taken away immediately at one point when his time was up. Although when he was at the peak of his power, Prahlad said, just by a waggle of his eyebrows, he could terrify the demigods. So exalted was his position, right? There's a way in which in the material world, there is a position where you think, I can't lose, can't do anything wrong. I'm unbeatable. Every step I take is just perfect, and everything I do is just magic. And there's also the opposite of like, I can't do anything right. I'm a complete loser. I can't win. And they're both illusory. And so Prahlad is saying that based on observing the fate of my father, who completely and totally invested in that life and achieved more progress in that way than anyone else, and his ultimate failure, I don't want that. Instead, I want to be a servant of you, Krishna. And so Prabhupada breaks down both of these things. So what is it to be in material life, and what is it to be in spiritual life in this purport? And the basic divisions of it are given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which Prabhupada breaks down a verse of in the prose of this purport. The verse is, Krishna Bhakti Nishkam Ataiva Shanta Mukti Pukti Siddhi Kami Shakalya Shanta, which means that the devotee of the Lord, they're not polluted by any personal desire. Therefore, they're peaceful, right? But those who desire mukti, bhukti, or siddhi, which are broken down in this verse, they're full of desires. Therefore, they cannot be peaceful. And that's the point, is that all of those things are external to the self. They're all external. We don't think that in our conditioned state. We think like, I am this. Like I'm all about this, right? This is who I am. Of course, we don't really think about how, when we were 4 years old, we were all about whatever 4-year-olds are into. When we were 7, we're like, 4-year-old stuff, get that out of here, Mom. I'm into this now. And then, that you graduate from that to something else. And girls and boys are into that. Then you forget about that. And you're into like money. And there's always some, way in which you let go of it, because they're always external. But we think whenever we're in it and we're intoxicated with the modes of nature, we think like, this is it. This is everything. But that verse is saying there's no peace in that, because those are external things. If I pick up a heavy rock and I put it in my pocket and I walk around with it, it's nothing but a burden. And so from the perspective of the pure devotee, there's no peace in that. There's no satisfaction. And so the divisions of that are given in the second half of the purport, Mukti, Bhukti, and Siddhi. And Bhukti is the most common kind of like aspiration. It's just any material gratification. To live longer. To be more beautiful. To have more knowledge. To gratify my senses. And actually, this is the most insignificant of the three. Because just by performing good karmic activity, you can take birth in a higher position and have more of that. It's relative. In fact, even in this world, there's more and less of it. People say like, well, what is the like evidence for heavenly planets or hellish planets? And it's like, well, take a look around you. What if you're born in Hawaii to wealth and you're gorgeous, versus you're born like unable to walk properly and ugly and dirt poor? All right there you have heavenly and hellish, relatively. And so there's more and less of that. You could have more heavenly, you can have more hellish. And that's all just a function of the modes of nature. But even the great demigods like Brahma, who live for periods of time that are staggering to our intelligence, they're not satisfied by that. And they're ashanta, they're not peaceful if they are attached to that situation. And so beyond that, there's mukti kama, to desire, as Prabhupada says, when one is disgusted with such material opulences, they think enough. This is all useless. I want to just merge. I want to lose my identity because everything I've been doing under the guise of this identity that I've been following is just problematic. So what if I didn't exist as a person? What if I just could just be, just merge with the Supreme? And this is also a desire that's external to the self because it's foreign. We're not actually meant to merge. Krishna can facilitate it if one really wants it, but it's actually just it's foreign. And the evidence is you have to take very severe austerities to overcome any kind of sense of personal self, because that is what we are. We're actually a self, not just in a conditioned state. We're an individual in our purified state. And so if one is so terrified of selfhood, personhood, that they wish to escape it, that's also a very ashanta, a very unpeaceful situation. And the perfection that can be attained by that is also not satisfying because there's no exchange anymore. There's no personhood. There's no realization of another. There's no relationship at all whatsoever. No variety. And Siddhikami means that one has to have, the prerequisite for that is one has to have some realization of Supersoul. And they connect with Supersoul, the divine, in that feature in their heart, but they're not connecting for the sake of connection. They're connecting and they get actually waylaid by some of these yogic powers. Prabhupada mentions the first three of a list of yogic powers. In fact, the yogic perfections, the siddhis, siddhi literally means perfection. They're of three different grades. They're mentioned in the 11th canto. In this age, the only ones that are really available practically are the third grade ones, the lower grade ones. And it's kind of like having Jedi powers or magical powers or Harry Potter or magic, this, that, sorcery, it's like that, of different gradations. And at the highest level, one can actually influence anybody, travel anywhere, create entire planets. You're functioning like a sub-god. But all that is just a trap. All is just a trap. The desire for all that is just a trap. And so those are all foreign things to the soul. And Prahlad is saying, I don't want that. I don't want to hone my material existence. I don't want to escape material existence. I don't want to become a facsimile of you. I just want to be a servant of your servant. This is so paradoxical, actually, for us. Because in the material world, to serve is to consider to be in an inferior position. And to be a servant to the servant is like, who are you? Like, I'm the executive this. I'm the assistant to the executive this. Like, loser, right? It's not like that in spiritual life. And Prabhupada said real liberation means to consider oneself the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. 1,000,000 times removed. That is real liberation. It's like, I don't want to be the master. I'm not trying to be in charge. I reject that false egoistic inclination that's just driven me to problem after problem. I just want to receive what a devotee can give me. What is their realization of the Supreme? Let me be an assistant to them. That's all I want. They can be an assistant to their guru. I want to be an assistant to them, right? Sometimes we find like devotees may think, oh, I wish, Srila Prabhupada was still on the planet. I could be his disciple. Or, Lord Chaitanya or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or like any of these great devotees. I want to be their disciples. Like, why would you want that, actually? Why not be a servant of their servant of the servant? Like, Prabhupada gave the example. He's talking about his spiritual master. He said, so my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he'll be very kind upon all of you, speaking to his disciples. Just like a grandfather is more kind than the father. Right? The father has to be a little bit like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you stepped out of line. Like, you don't get any account, you don't get any any what is it called? Allowance this week, because I have to be the bad cop. But the grandparents like, oh yeah, come on over. I'll feed you. We'll go out. We'll hang out. We'll do whatever. And it's just fun. It's just fun and games. And in spiritual life, the more devotees you have that you're working under, the more mercy you're receiving. The more you're a servant, the more free you are, because you're getting the blessings of all the devotees, instead of like subtly, actually, potentially giving into this tendency to try to be in charge. And so we find that the most advanced devotees, even if they receive a position of like leadership in some way, they're acting as gurus, they're actually considering their disciples or their masters. They're considering, I'm a servant. I'm just a servant to these souls that Krishna has sent me. I'm serving them as a service to my guru. And they never consider themselves actually a master. Although they externally have to occupy a position, because you have to have someone at the head of the table to keep some sense of structure. People require that, you know? Just like if we don't have parents, if we don't actually have someone taking care of us, you know, if we're like liberated from that, what happens? Generally like misery, heartache, confusion. There has to be we require that, you know, temporarily. And so the spiritual masters occupy that position, although they recognize that I'm actually nobody's master. But these people require this, so I will serve. And they recognize that they have more experience, and they're willing to share that. So Prahlad recognizes that in spiritual life, we don't want to run from this opportunity to be a servant. We want to embrace it. You know, we don't want to be afraid of that. It's not a kind of bondage. It's not a kind of exploitation, right? In material life, it's like, yeah, you can be my assistant, right? My executive assistant. What do you end up doing? Just like all my dirty work. You get paid nothing. You just run around. I'll berate you. I'll belittle you to make myself feel better, right? In material life, seniors and juniors, they operate in such a way that the juniors are envious of the seniors. They try to bring them down. And the seniors try to push the downtrodden down further and step on them to go higher. And people at the same level, they try to fight with each other and compete, right? And in spiritual life, the one who has more blessings, they're giving blessings freely. They're giving blessings. They're giving of themselves. They're giving of their time, giving of their energy, giving of their teachings, sharing wisdom, praying for others. Those who are less advanced, they're just rendering humble service and gratefully receiving all the blessings that come. And people at the same level, they're creating friendship. And they're celebrating each other's successes, right? So this is like, you can see this difference in mentality, that in the material world, there can be no peace because you're fighting with your equals, you're trying to rip down your seniors, and you're trying to push down those who are beneath you. And in spiritual life, it's just the opposite. There's no sense of limited resources. All these things, all of these traps, they're based on the idea of material resources being limited. And in spiritual life, there are no limited resources. It's not that because I'm becoming Krishna conscious, you're less Krishna conscious. Because you're Krishna conscious, I'm less Krishna conscious. No. You know, this is not like the oxygen in this room where if I breathe a lungful, someone else is not getting that, you know? That's the reality of material life. That's what Prahlad is saying. I don't want to play those games. Don't give me a playpen with limited resources and try to entice me with anything. I don't care what the resource is. I only want you, the unlimited supreme. As soon as anybody becomes Krishna conscious, everybody benefits. As soon as anybody comes closer to the supreme, every single other living entity benefits. It's a rising tide. It's spiritual mathematics. 1 + 1 is 1, 1 - 1 is 1. You cannot actually create a decrease. In fact, it's always ever increasing. So we get to celebrate everyone else's advancement. You know that feeling when you see someone else like getting something you want, and you're like, that's great, but you never have to have that in spiritual life. Because actually, if you tune in and tap into the opportunity, it really means you're like, wow, amazing, look what they're doing, right? That's fantastic. And Bhagavatam explains, bhakti is so powerful that even somebody who hates all living entities and hates all the demigods, they're polluted by this material desire, this limited resource consciousness. They can actually make advancement just by appreciating the service of another person. So that's what Prahlad is saying. Like, I don't want to just tangentially appreciate. I want to directly be the servant of the servant. Someone else can say they know you, Krishna. I want to know them. I want to help them to serve you. And because of that, Prahlad is actually an incredibly advanced devotee. I mean, he's seeing Krishna face to face, don't forget. He's there with him, and he's saying, like, I don't consider myself your devotee. I consider myself the devotee of your devotee. And that's what I want. I just want to be under the care of someone who actually knows you. And they can vouch for me. They can say, hey, yes, Prahlad's fine. He's with me. So this is very much universally the attitude of the Vaishnava. And because of this, they're satisfied. Prabhupada gave the example. They were on a walk one time. Prabhupada was fond of going on walks. And it must have been in India, because some wild dog, some dog came up to him, right? And Prabhupada like very boldly stood up and said, "Hut!" Like, "Get out of here!" Like, waved his cane. The dog ran away. And Prabhupada said, "Why did that dog run away?" Right? Because he didn't have anybody backing him. He would put on a brave face and bark, all bark, no bite. But he didn't have anybody above him. That's the nature of a dog. But as soon as a dog is walking with their master, you can't scare them off. Because they know. Prabhupada said, they know the master has my back. I am completely bold and fearless because I know my master has me completely protected. That is the nature of a dog. That is the nature of the devotee. The devotee is fearless. And if they don't have a master in this world, they're always fearful. Everyone is always fearful because they know in their heart they're not in control of everything. And it's terrifying to them. And all the Hitlers and all the Maos and all the Alexander the Greats and all the attempts to try to control and own and enjoy are always, always, in the background, there's always anxiety because it doesn't ever work. And the only safe position is that dog who knows, my master's got me. I'm totally fine. You don't want to be a street dog trying to fend for yourself. Material life means being a street dog, running around fighting for scraps, putting on a brave face, and crying in private. And spiritual life means I got nothing to worry about. Live or die, I got nothing to worry about. I am totally backed. I am totally protected. I'll tell you, Vashanta, therefore completely peaceful. And so that position means, in this world, service to the devotees. It's like, that's the system Krishna has created. Because imagine, let's say some conditioned soul, like instantly promoted to the spiritual world, what happens? They're going to try to view it like a party that they're going to try and crash. It doesn't work. You can't just walk in and with your like God complex into the spiritual world. It's all about that place where everybody is invested in everyone else's well-being. They've let go of this idea of being in control. They're completely satisfied with Krishna. There's no subtle edging everyone else out of the way and putting myself in the middle. So the material world, devotional service here is arranged in such a way that one gets purified of that by serving people we can see face to face. We can see them. There's no hiding from it. There's no hiding from this tendency of I want to be in control, because like as soon as I'm face to face with a devotee, am I grateful that they're there? I'm in the association of a devotee. Or am I like, oh, this person again? Am I like appreciating their service, or am I jealous of it? Am I deeply committed to their advancement, or am I in some way like, yeah, them sure, but really it's about me? And that's what it's all about. It's like noticing that and working on it and investing more and more in that spiritual paradigm. And when we do, magical things happen that we could never have guessed. Because if you do those kinds of things in material life, you will become doormat number one. It doesn't work, right? But in spiritual life, you become completely enlivened. Your realization of Krishna increases. Free from all suffering, free from anxiety. It's like, who wouldn't want that? But you have to try it out, right? You have to try to practice it. And so we get to do that in the association of devotees, and we get to do that with our spiritual masters until we're like completely convinced, like Prahlad, is that that's it. That's who I am. I'm actually a servant. I've never been anything but that. And when I serve, I'm happy. And when I try to become the master, I'm not. So I'm just a servant. Let me be the servant of everybody. And name me a saint in any tradition who didn't show that. Name me a saint in any tradition, in any language, who didn't show I'm the servant of everybody. That's what it's all about. Om Tat Sat. So we hear about being the servant of the servant, letting go of material desires, desire for liberation, desire for yogic, magical, sorcery, powers, and the peace that comes from recognizing our servitorship, the street dog fighting and trying to pretend they're the master and hiding their own anxiety because they know they're not, and the house dog who is completely fearless. You see these house dogs? They're like, sometimes they're this big, but they think they're gigantic, right? Because why? Because they're totally pampered. They're completely pampered. In their little world, they are the king. Why? Because their daddy loves them. Their
And
mommy
mommy.
loves them.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, why not have that life? You don't have to worry if you're not the boss. If the boss actually loves you more than anyone else, like, yeah, you're fine. So that's our life as devotees. Like we're taken care of because Krishna is just that sweet. So be the servant of the servant. Now let's take some reflections.
I can reflect. So that was amazing, by the way. it's like everything's just hitting so hard. But my first thought was this interesting, and I'm just curious your thoughts on this, but that sometimes, like the servant, we're talking about being the servant of the servant, and the servant almost sometimes knowing the master better than the master knows themselves, in the sense of, and this is on a material, like I'm getting this from a material place of like, you could think of like Downton Abbey or something like that, where it's like that servant is like, knows, like their knowledge is so immense because of being in service of this, of the master. And you have like this idea of a really good servant, like kind of almost, you know, being able to anticipate the needs and having, I don't know, this really amazing perspective. And anyway, that's what came up for me. And that servant that we are serving is just this gold mine of knowledge. And like that maybe by serving them, it's like you almost know the master even better than if you were trying to then go and serve the master. Anyway, that came up. And then like being around devotees is very purifying in a way that feels amazing, you know, like I want, you know, we all have this attraction to the devotees, but it's also, in my experience, really highlights my own character flaws. Like, and it's like really, when you're in the material world in a social situation, you don't have that as much because like you're saying, it's like everyone's kind of like how did you put, like trying to edge other people out to be the center, and like everyone's kind of just freely having that, you know, being that way, and those characteristics are everywhere. But when you're around the devotees, there's something that is, it really highlights it for me, where I'm like, oh, I'm being judgmental, I'm trying to, like, I'm talking way too much, or trying to center myself or get attention. It's interesting. And so yeah, that purification process of just being present with the devotees is really powerful. Very powerful. And then of course they're so loving, so that makes it's such a nice environment to have those realizations, because in more material social situations, if you were to try to talk to somebody about it, they'd either like be dismissive or they'd be triggered because they do that same thing, or it would be difficult. But in the devotee social situation, it's like you can bring that up, and everyone is like very supportive, and it's not dismissive, and there's not spiritual bypassing of like, oh no, you're fine, you're like, people are generally like, oh yeah, you know, me too, like, yeah, we all have moments of, you know, feeling this way or having that tendency. And so anyway, I wanted to bring that up as well.
Thank you. Yeah, the first thing, the servant sometimes knows the master better than the master knows himself. Prabhupada said, you know, service to the guru, for example, the third class service is like they tell you what to do and you don't do it. Second class service is they tell you what to do and you do it. The first class service is they don't even have to tell you. You know what they want. You're predicting. And there's something that happens when you like voluntarily connect your heart to somebody and you're so in tune with them that you actually become very much receptive to that higher wisdom. And at the highest level, ultimately, this is what happens with Lord Chaitanya. He's showing that Krishna is recognizing that Radharani experiences joy greater than he does. Why? Because she loves him so much. She is the supreme devotee. And he wants to take her position because her level of Krishna consciousness is so high. And she's overflowing with that. And so he's being the supreme beloved, and he's thinking like, how is it she's enjoying so much? And so he takes the position of a devotee. And a devotee means a servant. She's always thinking herself the servant of Krishna. And that's what makes her so great and so joyful. And so, from Krishna's point of view, even supreme to him. So Lord Chaitanya is showing like how wonderful it is to be a devotee, that even Krishna himself is like, I want that position, right? I want to be the servant. So I can actually experience Krishna that richly, be that intoxicated with him, that in love with him, that aware of his qualities. And that's at the highest level. But even in our day-to-day, we can see, like you're saying, that there's a beautiful way in which we receive by being a servant. That personal exchange happens there. Also, there's a way in which when someone sees that this person is a sincere follower, they want to give themselves, right? Like as a teacher, if someone shows up, I'm like, wow, that's amazing, right? Whereas if they're like, imagine like a professor, they're giving a lecture and you're at the back of the class, you're like kind of lounging, you have this know-it-all attitude. How much mercy are you going to get?
You're right.
Right? How much mercy are you going to get? But if you're there and you're really trying, it doesn't matter if you're a dimwit, actually. It actually doesn't matter at all. If you show like, I really want to be here, I want this, they will make time, they'll do anything for you.
Yeah.
Why? Because they see, like, this person is here. They're here for what I've got.
Sincere.
Let me give them everything I have. And their second point was about, how purifying it is to be with devotees. It's very, very different, very kind of contrasting with our material experience. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
As you were talking about the difference between how we relate to others, whether they're our senior, our peer, or they're less
Junior.
or they're our junior. The difference between the material and the spiritual world. I was thinking about, or material life and spiritual life. I was thinking about the banyan tree in the Bhagavad Gita. Is it chapter 15:1, and how there's the roots, like it's flipped, right? In the reflection, the banyan tree is flipped in the reflection of the lake, right? And that's what's happening in the material world. It's like, because you were just describing, they're the same relationships are there, but we have them flipped on how we relate. One is like competitive and ego, and I'm at the center and I want to control and I want to be better than those around me, and I'm going to be condescending perhaps, or I'm going to be inferior, or I'm going to be competitive, versus what it actually, how it's meant to exist and how it's actually situated in the spiritual world. The banyan tree is when we're not looking at the reflection, but we're seeing it as it is, right? That we can have those, like those are the original relationships, and they just get that perverse reflection warps them because of the modes, material energy and such. So I was just seeing that. I could like see that, oh, right, we just have it upside down.
That's what the word perverted means. It's from Latin. Per means through, and versus means turn. To be turned through something. In the material world, because of the modes of nature, things are turned. They're just there's a big old left turn through everything, and it's really interesting because it's so etiquette and culture is such a subtle thing, such a refined thing, and you don't really know you don't have it till you're around somebody who has it. And in devotional circles, it's so eye-opening to see how devotees advanced devotees deal with each other. You know, like in material life, imagine you have less than someone else. You never want to show that. You know, like if you're at a job interview, you're trying to like promote yourself so much. And in spiritual life, we see like people are so open. Like I'm so following. Please help me. They're just like that with each other. Like the more advanced they are, the more they're like that. They're like, Prabhu, you got to give me your blessings. Please, pray for me. And who goes and operates like that in the material world? Nobody. Who is that vulnerable? And there's always like this, you put on this mask of like, I'm so powerful, I'm so strong. Oh, I'm your friend. Yeah, I'm with you in this. But meanwhile, you're stabbing them in the back, like anything to get what they have. And it's just like, we don't know how it even works in the spiritual context. So I was just reminded of like, it just shows like why we have to be around devotees, especially ones who are more advanced, because then we can see like, oh wow, like look how my Guru Maharaj deals with their god siblings and with everybody who comes to them. It's like I could never be like that. I would never guess that I could be like that, and still, it's not a drag for them. This is just their own. They're just floating on their own spiritual bliss doing this. This is what's possible for me as a soul, and we have to have that modeled. Yeah, those relationships are really possible, and they can feel very scary. I mean, at first, like the whole idea of being a servant is very scary. It's like, yeah, what are you about? I'm all about surrendering and being a servant. It's like the two biggest no-nos, like surrender, raise the white flag, and be the servant. It's like, okay, I give up.
I failed.
I failed. It's like that's actually the highest position in the spiritual world. You're actually, you completely get it. You're actually more ahead of the curve than anyone else just because you've embraced that. Like, we never guessed that. Thank you.
I was just thinking how this works in like in the corporate world. And excuse my voice, it's very sore throat. Um, like you have people in the C-suite, let's say, like the CEO of a company or whatever, and they're not approachable. Or
No.
you think people think they are, like you snuggle up with the CEO, but really, if you're gonna get anywhere, get anything done, you're gonna go to their administrative assistant because their administrative assistant is their servant, and they know everything. Like all the shows on TV or movies or whatever talk about how the secretaries and the administrative assistants rule the world, rule the corporate environment. That's absolutely true. You know, so it's just an interesting analogy to, you know, sometimes you can't, not that you can't, but it's not, it wouldn't be as productive to go directly to that powerful source if there's somebody that's serving them that you could, work with or learn more about, for your own, you know, to get to know that person better for your own advancement, if you want to think about it in a material way. Anyway, that's what was coming to mind for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and Prabhupada gave that analogy too, that just like in a corporate atmosphere, if you serve the person immediately above you, if the atmosphere is perfect and there's no flaws, the theory, the idea is that by perfect service to the person above you, it comes to the attention of the boss that you deserve a promotion. You don't have to actually meet the boss. You don't actually have to be in the same room as them. They don't have to know your name, but the person who sees that you're doing the job well is like, this person. Let them come up. They get elevated. And of course, in the material modes of nature, that there's so many ways in which that doesn't work. But in spiritual life, it's like that's exactly what it is. Like, I don't have to worry about, can I see Krishna face to face, as much as I'm fixed on like the order of my spiritual master and serving the Vaishnavas and my service is in front of me. And there's such freedom in that. There's such peace in that, because it's like Krishna actually becomes directly manifest in that. I don't have to like rip through all the modes of nature myself. I'm not doing it under my own power. I'm just doing what my spiritual master has asked me to do right now. And they're taking care of me. And they're directly in front of me. My service that I'm doing right now, that's what's happening for me right now. And I get promoted. That's all. That's all it is. It's very sweet. I was just remembering that from your corporate analogy.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was just going to add to that with the corporate analogy that the best bosses I've ever had have always asked, what do you need from me to do your job better?
Yeah.
Acting as the servant. And I love the analogy of taking shelter of a guru is like a dog taking shelter of a master. It's that safety. I keep on thinking, that when I hit a place where I am in confusion, there are so many people that I trust, not necessarily just my guru, but other devotees like yourselves, that I can say, I'm hitting a place where I'm uncertain and getting help in that uncertainty. There's that trust in that sense that there's a safety, which is really beautiful, rather than a place where, well, if I show vulnerability, you're going to go for the jugular, which has happened to me in corporate life. Any kind of. So it's really the spiritual life really is a beautiful place to maintain my existence. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it happens in corporate life, happens in friendships, happens in families, happens in romantic endeavors, happens all over the place. It's we get trained by the material world to harden our hearts. It's a very difficult thing, and even if it's not that, like getting stabbed and betrayed, there's the fear when you're kind of faced with okay, this is a new situation for me. If you're really alone in that, if you really feel like I'm breaking new ground, it's quite scary. But it's amazing to know, like, well, whatever I'm doing has already been done before by someone else, and I'm under their care, and there's great relief in this. Like, I may feel overwhelmed by my own shortcomings. I may feel like my inability to chant with attention, or this or that, or this bad habit, or whatever I'm dealing with right now that's holding me back is just beyond me. I have no idea what to do about it. But I know that the devotees that I'm taking shelter of, they're dealing with it, or they have dealt with it, and they'll give me their mercy. And that's like, I don't have to have the answer. They'll help me have the answer. They'll help me apply the answer. Whereas like in material life, it's all about forging your own path, and you got to figure it out yourself. Like, good luck, good luck trying to figure out all the answers that way, reinventing the wheel every step. So thank you. Okay, anything else? Any other reflections? Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Okay, now let's take this opportunity to offer our respectful obeisances into all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desire trees and fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for all the fallen conditions. So, Jai Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Santubhye Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.